Hello and welcome to Falls from Iron. I'm Gatesy, your host. Please don't forget to drop a like on the stream, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and make sure you hit that bell icon to be alerted of any new content as and when we upload it to the channel. So, sitting in the green room for the next episode of the West Ham United squad player tier list for season 2022-2023, I have a very special guest indeed. I've been trying to get this guy on for a little while now, and I keep having to sort of talk to his agent, and it's just one of those things. He's a very sought after man, but I've finally managed to pin him down, not literally. I'll bring him in. Here he is. Straining at the leash. How are you, Mr. Budden?
Very good. We've agreed terms.
Terms, yeah.
It's a 1 year.
Early whirlies.
Exactly. It's a 1 year with a further year extension. It's very similar to Fabianski's deal. So, yeah, welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I'm sure everybody knows who you are, but just in case they don't, please pop along to West Ham Network on YouTube, give them a subscribe, and don't forget to follow them on Twitter as well at their handle at West Ham Network.
Thank you very much.
You are more than welcome, sir. Okay, so let's get down to it. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the tier list. I'll just go full screen if I may. So, we have a tier list going from top to bottom as follows. Long-term player, so players who, in Russ Budden's opinion, will be at West Ham for 3 seasons and beyond if he was in charge. This is the really important thing, guys. It's if Russ was the West Ham manager. It's not what Russ thinks David Moyes thinks of the players. It's what Russ thinks of the players himself. Next tier down is 1 or 2 seasons. The next tier is reserved for players that Russ is completely not sure about one way or the other. And then the bottom one is really brutal, but quite to the point. It is see ya. Below that, we have the West Ham first team squad, according to Wikipedia, as for season 2021-2022. And we are going to go alphabetically at the outset, Mr. Budden. So, are you sitting comfortably?
I am indeed.
Then we shall begin. So we'll go with Michail Antonio. Give us your thoughts on Michail Antonio for the coming season.
To be honest, for me, he's going to be a one or 2 seasons. That's where I'd put him. He's. I think. Do you know? I was thinking about the other day because obviously everyone's talking about striker. We need a striker. We haven't had a striker since God knows who, really. In all honesty, but. It's we got a young chap called Harry who's sort of doing a few things for the network, and he did a great video the other day about Antonio and the people that he's potential suitors we got coming in like Brozier or someone like that. Yeah. And he's he does loads of stats, but his expected goals is like 2 or 3 less than it should be, but his assists are something like 5 more than they should be or something like that. So I think, when you bring in a player, say you bring in a goal scorer, I think then we'll start moaning that people like Bowen's not scoring enough goals and well, actually they're all going through the main man. I was thinking about it last night. So many of our outfield players have scored this season. So I think he's a focal point. He's a focal point of our attack. We know he's frustrating, but he has moments of brilliance, and you can't fault a guy for trying. He does try. It's not his fault he's knackered all the time, but he's carrying more muscle than. I mean, I'm a similar situation in that I can't. I'm not maybe not be able to do say full 90 minutes anymore now. But it's just because of the amount of bulk you're carrying. That's the trouble with him. But no, I like Antonio, and he's our Premier League all-time goal scorer. Probably will be for a long time now. There's not going to be anyone else taking over for a little bit.
It'll take a while, won't it, to catch him?
Yeah, but I like him. I've always liked him. He plays with a smile, and he's just interesting. You know what I mean? He's just an interesting player, and he's a character. And we've spoken before, Gates, haven't we? That when we talk to him, we see each other on the old ex-player circuit, and they're all characters, and you'd go and listen to Frank McAvenny every night for a week, and
oh god,
he'd tell you the same stories, but you still go because he's a character. And I've always said I can't see in 20 years' time going to the Queen's Theatre for an evening with West Ham greats, and it'll be Sebastian Haller and Felipe Anderson. But you know what I mean? But in 20 years' time, you're probably going to still see Mark Ward and Frank McAvenny.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? And there's so few characters in the game. I mean, who doesn't enjoy the fact he crashed his car dressed as Snowman over Christmas? Do you know what I mean? It's like you wouldn't get...
Probably the Met Police weren't too pleased.
Weren't too happy. And probably the person whose house it was. But I'm sure they got compensated sufficiently. But I mean, for Antonio, there's... And he brought back, the celebration, and again, that was a lost art. Sort of mid 2000s, there was a lot of celebrations, and it went by the wayside, and it was all finger things.
Yeah,
all silly. He was like, I like him. So I've given 1-2 TCs. It'll be done by then. His legs were gone by then.
Fair enough. Okay, so we move on. Now, it was obviously confirmed last week, I think it was, that Alphonse Areola is now confirmed as a permanent fixture at London Stadium. But if you were the manager, Russ, how would you have assessed Alphonse Areola on the basis of last season?
Long-term player. There's no denying the fact that he's a fantastic goalkeeper. And the 13 or 14 or 15 appearances he made last season, he kept a lot of clean sheets. He make a lot of obvious errors, which tends to happen with some players, some goalkeepers, particularly over recent years. We haven't had since Fabianski. The previous lot weren't particularly great. Roberto and people like that always got a slight nervousness with Adrian as well. Sometimes, that sort of eccentric goalkeeper about him, which could be fantastic 1 minute and absolutely a clown the second. But with Areola, I think he's going to be the backbone of West Ham's defence for the next 5 years. I think.
Fair,
definitely.
I've just realised that I've misclicked and I should have put Alex Kral. Why is he there? Hang on. There you go. No, he was in the right place early, but I think as I've moved Areola, I've dragged Kral across. Whatever, doesn't matter. Okay, so he's a top shelf material. Yeah. There we go. Now, this is a player that, in my opinion, I don't think he is a first team player, but as I say, this is according to Wikipedia. I'm not going to argue with that. Harrison Ashby.
Get him up the top. He's my boy. Harrison Ashby is my boy. I've seen him. Well, obviously all the under 23 games that are played at London Stadium, plus obviously the games that he made his first team debut season before last. It seems a long time ago. And I think this year is his proper introduction to the first team. And so, he's taking on Ryan Fredericks' place. And if things happen throughout the year, and maybe, someone like Aaron Cresswell gets a knock, Ben Johnson moves onto the left side, say Coufal gets a knock or whatever, Ashby straight in there. And I think he is going to be one for the future. And I think Moyes as well knows that as well. Obviously, he's been training a lot with him when they've been in St Andrews. Anton was there and saw him quite heavily in the training with the first team defence. And so, this year, I think it's going to be his year where you're going to see a lot more of Ashby, and bloody well hope so. He's a fantastic player, and I'm really looking forward to him this season.
Fair enough. Next player is a player that is, Marmite in a lot of people's estimation. You either love him or not so much. Talk to me about Saeed Benrahma. Right.
Okay. So I'm going to put him in the senior pile, and the reason is, and it's not a West Ham decision. It's a decision for him as a player. He is no doubt a fantastically skillful player. He is, on his day, he can be a world beater. When he was playing at Brentford, albeit I know it was the Championship, he was Martin, who does the announcing at West Ham, he'd go and watch a lot of Brentford games because he lives in West London, and he was always raving, and he loves Benrahma, loves him. When we signed him, he was so happy, and he plays better he's a similar to Haller in that Haller didn't fit the system. And you see him go. Obviously, he signed for Borussia Dortmund recently. See, I said recently because it's today, but by the time you get it out, it doesn't look like clever. You see,
That's why you're a pro. That's why you're a pro.
Future-proofing. And obviously him going to Dortmund, but obviously his time at Ajax, where he got the most goals scored in a debut season, the Champions League, and finally in the right formation, in the right setup, he will be a world beater, same as I think Benrahma would be. I think he goes to the right club, where maybe he doesn't have to track back as much. He can be the focal point for the attack. I think we've got too many outlets. If he was the main man at whether it's a Premier League club or a Ligue 1 club or Bundesliga or something like that, you'd see a much better player. Be one of those players that you'll see him play and everyone goes, "Oh, bloody Moyes couldn't get it out of him at West Ham." A bit like with Haller, And I think so. It's not because I don't think he's a great player, but I don't think he fits in our system. That's all.
I'm inclined to agree with you. I think that a player, as far as his technical ability is concerned, I don't think you can really doubt him. Was he David Moyes' signing? I'm not entirely convinced he was. And I agree. I think that, in my view, I think that you get the best out of him, I would argue, in a 4-3-3 formation, playing on the left, where he did at Brentford. That's where he got the reputation that he did, that let us sort of part with the money to bring him through London Stadium. But to the best of my knowledge, I don't think he's ever played on the left of a 4-3-3 formation at West Ham once.
No, not the way we play, is it? It's the thing.
No.
The same thing with Haller. Haller. Yeah. We all know that he was most effective in a 4-3-3 with Kosic and with Jovic and him in the middle. And he comes to West Ham and plays as a target man. It's like, well, that's not what he was having a good time at Eintracht Frankfurt about.
Precisely.
So it's the same situation, I think, and I think that's a difficulty with. I think that's why people get frustrated with Moyes. He wants to put the right pieces in the puzzle. So we're talking about Antonio. The only person that he would replace Antonio with would be another Antonio, because he wants that piece of the puzzle. That's the trouble. When we play Bowen in that sort of central sort of striker role, the team still think Antonio's playing. So it's like Wilson will still do the long balls down the side, where Antonio always chases. But that's not Bowen's style. He needs them behind the front two, the defenders. And I think that's the same here. So it's I think it's one of those things where I think it just doesn't fit. Just don't fit, bless him.
Yeah, it's what it is.
He's tried. He's tried the last few games. I think last season, probably his best games for us. In terms of he was really trying. You could tell. That Eintracht Frankfurt home game, he came on wanting to make a difference and had a real, rocket up its arse, it seemed, and that was appreciated. People appreciate the fact that he was tracking back and tackling, and he's been asked to do that, and he's done it. But it's not his game. Not his game. You want to enjoy it. You want to enjoy your job, don't you? Really.
Absolutely. You mentioned him just a moment ago, Russ. He's sitting there waiting to be given the Russ Budden seal of approval or otherwise. Talk to me about Jarrod Bowen.
Oh, he's long term, and he's what what I really want us to have for the next 3-5 years is a spine of a team, and then we can improve the spine as each transfer window goes. And that's what it seems we're trying to do now. From the defence, we're building that defence up to be relatively solid defence. It's going to be the same for the majority of games. Maybe not so much for the European games, the cup games, but for the league games, you've got this nice sort of triangle now with Zouma and Iged and Areola. Those three could be the backbone, and then maybe Declan Rice hopefully for a little bit longer, and then with Bowen on the right. So there's going to be a sort of spine. So for him, he's going to be definitely long term for me. He's without a doubt, the boy is mustard, absolutely mustard, and he's a trier. And God loves a trier.
You wouldn't flog him to Liverpool?
No, I don't think Liverpool need him. I don't think Liverpool need him. Do you know what I mean? It's like you look at how they've invested, and they've got, obviously they bought in Diaz. Obviously they sold Mane, but they got Salah on a long-term deal. Firmino's just coming back, and then they've got rid of Minamino, haven't they? I think they've sold him, or he's gone somewhere. But then they've got Cannavaro from Fulham. So they've got, and they've still got Jota, and they I don't think Bowen won't get a starting spot.
Yeah,
he's not going to break that monopoly of that front three now. because Jota was sitting where Mane was. But no, I wouldn't. I don't think it's worth it for him.
Fair. In his debut season, Vladimir Coufal, I think it's fair to say, impressed the vast majority of West Ham fans. Last season, maybe not so much, although part of that was down to injury, I do believe. But how do you assess Vladimir Coufal?
For Vlad, I mean, he's in a similar boat to Tomas Soucek and similar boat to Declan Rice. These guys haven't had any prolonged rest for about two and a half seasons with the Euros and stuff. And so it didn't surprise me that there was this sort of second or third season. Is it third or second season syndrome? The third season, I think. And I think that's the case with Vlad. For me, he's 1 to 2 seasons. I think we're looking clearly, by some of the people we're looking at. I think right back is not a priority for us this summer. But there is Joachim from Atalanta, and there's a lot of interest around in the Danish right back. He can play left back as well. But I think that position could be where I think, clearly we're looking at left back as well. And, I want this back five to be the same back five for the next 3 or 4 years. And I think you won't have that with Vlad there. I mean, you could have it with Ashby potentially or Ben Johnson on the right. But I think it'll be interesting to see if Potato Salad moved on, what would happen with Vlad. Because obviously Vlad came in upon Mr. Potato Salad's recommendation, and it seems we're going to go all Moroccan at the moment, rather than we were all Czech a few years ago. Looks like we're going to go Moroccan now with all our people we're going to sign. So we'll see what happens. But I'd say 1 to 2 seasons with Vlad. He's a great player, and he gives his all. But I think with the right backs particularly, I think once they hit sort of fullbacks, I think Cresswell's the same. I think once they hit that sort of 30 onwards, it's really obvious that they get beaten for pace. I always look at Zabaleta, towards the end of his time at West Ham, and there was several times. One was, I remember, against there was Sarr, he got torn a new one. I think it was Mane, he got torn a new one. And now fullbacks have got to be be able to get up and down and almost be auxiliary wingers. And I think we haven't got that, in terms of Vlad and Cress. And so, 1 to 2 years, I think that's a fair assessment. And then he can go back to Slavia Prague, maybe have a hero's welcome. Oh, we'll be there. We'll be at the end of for the final, aren't we? This is the final at Prague, isn't it, next season?
Yes, it is.
So there we go, Slavia home ground. So there we go. We'll be there, so he can get a hero's welcome.
Can't be bad. You mentioned Darren Cresswell. Look who's next on the list. It's that man himself.
I know what's happening.
Like I say, it's a professional in you, Russ.
I try. Cress is the same 1 to 2 seasons. I mean, for me, there's a changing of the guard now. Definitely, it seems we're doing that a little bit more now, and I think that the fullbacks are where I think we've sort of got that with the centre backs now. Now the fullbacks are very different. That's the next bit. We've had quite a few aging fullbacks. And particularly centre backs as well. The likes of, obviously, we got rid of Balbuena and Craig's still there and Ogbonna's still there, but they're not going to be first team footballers, sort of starters. I think it's going to be the same true going forward with the fullbacks. And so Cress, great player. I mean, Cress is, the longest serving West Ham player we've got there now. I think he's got the most Premier League appearances after Mark. So, he's done great. But is he 32, 33, something like that now?
Yeah. I'd love to see him get his testimonial. I can't lie. I think he's been a fantastic servant for the club.
Yeah. I mean, he should. It's funny with Cress, isn't it? He's one of those players you don't realise how long he's been there for. Ogbonna's been there for a long time as well. He's been injured for most of it. Whereas Cress, was it 2014 we signed him? I think he was, something like that.
Yeah.
And obviously he's had to adapt his game. He's not the marauding fullback now. He's more of a sort of cultured fullback who likes to trot forward and has a good dead ball on him, and that's something that we need to sort of bring back into the side. particularly when he's gone, which is again another slight concern. Probably not this season, but maybe next season. I think he's got enough on there for this season. But yeah, 1 to 2 now. I think he's. We'll keep him for his testimonial, and then he can.
Yeah.
I'm nice like that.
Have him for his dead ball abilities, a little bit of experience. But personally, this is just my opinion. I think that whether he's the first choice left back for the season that's about to start, maybe not. The following season, no, definitely not.
Yeah,
definitely not. But I'd be happy to keep him around the squad, no problem at all. But we move on. Another defender going centrally this time. Craig Dawson, £2 million. What a bargain.
What a bargain. Now, obviously, he'll be in my one or two seasons for him because he's experienced. And I think you're right. I think there's going to be this... I thought it was going to happen the last season with the goalkeeper situation, but that hasn't sort of happened like that in terms of the changing of the guard. But there will be, I think, the end of next season, a changing of the guard in terms of him and also Ogbonna, making way for another two to come in, whether it is two from the under-23s being brought forward or whether it is buying some good youngsters who are going to be sort of developing into first teamers. I think we've got our starting two now, and I think you'll see Craig and Oggy for the Europa Conference League games and the Cup games, and as and when required. But with Dawes, he's a character as well, and he's an old school defender, and we haven't got a lot of them. There's not a lot of them in the Premier League, who tackle. He doesn't, a lot of defenders don't actually tackle in the Premier League now. They sort of hang off. Even like Zouma doesn't tackle. Aguirre doesn't tackle.
A bit of a throwback, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think that's why we've taken to him in a bit the same way we took to James Collins. In terms of that sort of do or die attitude. He puts his heart on his sleeve, and we like to be proved wrong. We like to be proved wrong. When he came in, we all chortled at the fact that we'd got him from Watford. The Watford fans were like saying thank you, he's our worst player. And to be fair, he was on the verge of an England call-up, really, in terms of how well he was playing last year. If he was 2 years younger, or maybe he was playing with a few devils on his badge, or he'd have probably got in there rather than being a West Ham player. Especially when you look at how poorly our centre backs have played for England, he would have come in and been one of those great. I remember when Ricky Lambert, he got called up for England and scored, and he made a couple of appearances, I think, with Ricky Lambert, and it would have been nice for Craig to just for a. But we know it's not the case because he doesn't do things like that. Otherwise, Martin Noble would have had at least a couple of caps by now. But 1 to 2, and definitely keep him around.
Yeah, absolutely. Another central defender. I suspect this one might be a slightly different assessment, but you might surprise me. Issa Diop, Russ.
Yeah, I mean, again, for me, it's a seer for him, and it's not, again, a detriment to him because he's a great player. But I think he's fifth choice now, and he's 25. He should be playing first team football now, regular. Yeah. He should be a first choice. And if it means going back to France, whether it's Lyon, whether it's Monaco, whatever, maybe we use him as a make weight for, I don't know, Lille to get Jonathan David. I don't know, but I think that's his next step. As I said, he's going to be a fifth choice now after Oggy and Dawson and Aguirre and Zouma. So, we want, and that fifth place could be taken up by an Alese or a Baptiste, and we could get some money out, still get some good money out of Diop. So, yeah. I mean, again, when he's been called upon, he's played very well. There's a couple of times he does fall asleep a little bit, but he plays better when Zouma's alongside him rather than Craig Dawson. I think Zouma. I think all the defenders play better when they play with Zouma. I just think he gives them a bit more. He sweeps up a lot more than I think people realise in terms of him being out of position and stuff. With some of the defenders, he sort of reads the game very well. Whereas Diop, he's 25. You get at least 15 million out of him, 20 million maybe. I don't know. I don't think we'll get back the 22 or whatever we paid for him, but maybe 15 million. I reckon you probably get back for him.
Yeah, I think he's that first season. I thought he was brilliant.
That was a revelation, yes.
But it's just been the law of diminishing returns. And whilst when he's been called upon last season, he didn't really sort of let anyone down. He did all right. Nothing earth shattering. Not enough that it made Moyes keep him in the team the following week, sort of thing. Ahead, once Zouma or Dawson was fit, they were straight in, sort of thing. Right. But he didn't let anyone down. But like you say, 25 years of age. His career's kind of stagnated now at West Ham. I think he's in his last season at the club. If I'm,
I think it will be going. Yeah, I think it will be going. Yeah.
So we either sell him and get a few quid in for him, or we lose him for nothing in 12 months. So yeah, and I wish him luck for the rest of his career. But yeah, I think he needs to move on. I agree.
Yeah.
So it was announced today, as we record this, that Lucas Fabianski has signed a 1-year contract extension with the option of an extra year beyond that. How would you have assessed it, though?
Well, it was one of the worst kept secrets at West Ham.
Yeah,
particularly when David Moyes, I think it was like halfway through the season, said, "Oh, talk about Fabianski, we're keeping him for another year." Oh, are you okay? Well, you might want to just announce that or something like that. It's a strange announcement as well today. Very, very bizarre. For me, it's changed. When we signed Areola permanently, I was thinking, right, okay, it makes sense. We'll get Fabianski on a 1 year. He's on a 1 year deal, and there'll be a changing of the guard. That's my phrase, the fucking thing, to be honest. But there'll be this changing of the guard in the number 1 jersey. It wouldn't surprise me if Fabianski started on against Man City, because that's David Moyes' way. But there'd be a period where they'd sort of change position during the season, maybe after the World Cup or something like that, and then Areola gets his feet under the table, and then Fabianski goes off and goes to, I don't know, another club, because he doesn't want to retire, he said. And so, fair enough, off he goes, but with a 1 year option, that's what throws it all up for me now, because we've got, in essence, you've got Areola for 5+1, so you've got him for 6 years, really, because they'll exercise the option if they can. Most people do anyway, and he'll be over 40, won't he, by the time that's his contract, if we exercise that other option for the second year. It's a really strange one for someone so old. No disrespect. I mean, he's old. I mean, he's younger than you and me, Gates. But for a footballer, he just seems very strange with a 1 year plus another year. I don't get that. It's almost like his kid has got to get to the end of school age. Do you know what I mean? It's because I know he's got a young kid. So it might be, that I don't know whether I don't know how, I'm just having an idea. But that extra year on top just gives me a bit of a, okay, it's maybe not so cut and dry that Areola's going to go in as number 1 next season. That just puts that little.
I think they're hedging their bets.
Yeah, I think they're totally hedging their bets. I think they give it, or the flip side is, we like competition, and now Areola knows that actually Fabianski could be there for 2 years now rather than 1 year. He's got to make sure he performs when he gets between the sticks, because he knows that Fabianski's going to be here for another year and a bit, particularly in the World Cup year as well, when Areola wants to be going with France to the World Cup. So it's a really nothing's ever cut and dry at West Ham. It was like it
just how we like it.
Exactly. But it happened before, when everyone said, "Oh, you're not going to sign Adrian. We're going to get in Roberto and David Martin. Send the 2 kids off, and that's it. Sorted. Perfect. That would work really well." But then Fabianski gets injured. Roberto goes in goal. Pellegrini loses his job, and there's this sort of it would have been easy if it was just a 1 year rather than 1+1. That's the weird thing. For me, it's 1 or 2 seasons, obviously. I think he's still a good goalkeeper. And for me, he's still he's still very. I find him. I mean, people call him Flapianski. To be honest, I think he has just as many mistakes as any other goalkeeper. To be honest,
I think if you look at any other goalkeeper in the Premier League closely enough, you'll always find mistakes, won't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, Pablo Fornals, Russ, talk to me.
For me, long term, I love Pablo. I think he's great, and I think long term he'll be. The only thing I want with Pablo is to find a position for him. Do you know what I mean? Because for me, he's a great squad player, but I think he could be a really good first team. I mean, he's usually the first name of the team. One of the first names of the team, but he tends to be that left side. And that's not his position. He's better in as a 10 or even playing sort of. I mean, Anton, when he went to St Andrews, said that actually he was doing a lot of work with the defensive midfield positions. Being that sort of Tomas Soucek, Declan, and that's how I could see him turning out. Being that sort of little box-to-box terrier of a player. He likes to get involved. He likes to put a boot in. He's got a pass in him as well. And I just want him to find a position, and then we can then address the gap that he's left. He could be that sort of third man in that sort of defensive midfield too. Rice, Soucek, it could be Fornals, and maybe that could be, by the looking at where they're training at pre-season, that may be Moyes' thinking. Maybe, I don't know, but I think again his character. He gets West Ham. We've obviously I think when we interviewed, or we was doing a live stream, I think Jack Mate came on and said that Paolo was asked. He'd asked about West Ham, and he always asks about, who Bobby Moore was, and he wants to know about the club, wants to know about the tradition, and that to me is what being a West Ham player is all about: understanding why we're the way we are, and he gets it, and it doesn't happen very often for foreign players to get it. There's a handful of foreign players who have got West Ham, and I think Pablo is one of them. You talk about likes of Di Canio, and you talks about the likes of Carlos Tevez, and who was only there for a short amount of time. But these guys weren't necessarily. I mean, I'm not comparing him to Pablo Di Canio, but in terms of his characteristic, in terms of his relationship with the fan base, and he just gets it. So I'll just keep him around just because he'd be. You can slot him in anywhere. I mean, when he played left wing back last season, he had a good go at that. He tried. He wasn't the best, but he weren't the worst either. So. Yeah, I'm keeping him. He's still in my team.
Fair enough. Now, the next player is a player that was released a week or two ago. Ryan Fredericks, would you have waved him out the door, or would you have maybe...
Nope. No, I wouldn't. Because he's got one thing that no one else in that team has got, and it's genuine pace. There's a reason why they called him Flash. For that exact reason. I know him, and it sort of goes as a player. Obviously, him leaving does free up the space for Ashby, who's my boy. But how many times last season we threw him on just to get a bit of pace on that right hand side, and we haven't got that now. We haven't got anyone who's genuinely like a speedster. Yeah, we've got fast players, but he was a proper speedster. I would have put him into 1 to 2 seasons, because I think for me he's the type of player who is really useful to have as a squad player. And I was gutted he went, and obviously good luck to him at Bournemouth. He'll probably do really well there. He'll be a good person to get on your fantasy football league, because he'll probably start at Bournemouth. And he'll get plenty of assists, bombing it down that wing, crossing that ball in. So I was gutted that he went. Also, because he's done a Deck's mates, we want to keep Deck happy as well. So
fair. So you'd have gone 1 or 2 seasons. Yeah. Cool. Straight in, bang. So the next one, academy graduate. Is he a right back? Is he a left back? You might decide to put him somewhere else. You was in the hot seat. Talk to me about Ben Johnson.
Right, well, he's a long-term player for me. I think he's and actually for me, for his progression, not only in West Ham, but progression into England, it is for me. I'd move him to left back because even within the under-21 squad, there's him, there's Tariq, the pen surgery from Brighton Hove Albion. There's Livramento as well. There's another one as well. There's about 3 or 4 right backs in the under 21 squad before you go into the main squad, where you've got where you got, the likes of, Kyle Walker can play there. You've got the likes of Trippier who can play there. You've got the likes of Reece James can play there. There's another probably about 2 or 3 I'm not even thinking
Trent.
of, to be honest. Yeah, Trent, TAA as well. So there's like 8 arguably ahead of him. Left backs, not so many. Not so many. And I think he'll get, and I remember, I think it was Ailey Boothroyd said of him when they were talking about his selection into the under-21 squad, saying he brings, I think he actually played centre-back in one of his games.
Yep.
And it was his diversity which got him in, which is great, which means you're a squad player, which is good. You'd be picked for the World Cups and Euros because you can play a number of positions. But, you're not you haven't got that sort of spot named down on you. You'd just be a good squad player. You'd be like a Phil Neville. He could play 3 or 4 positions. You take him on the squad. He's never going to be the number one man on the team sheet. But I think Ben should be. And I think he's actually played better playing left back this season than he has playing right back, which again,
I agree,
is quite unusual because he's a right footed player. He also went to my old school. So, which I only found out when I watched his video of him doing that dance when he was a kid. Someone said to me, "Is that your school uniform?" And it was. So he went to my old school. So therefore he's in. But I think he would be the left back. Whether that's replicated by Mr. Moyes, who knows? It doesn't matter because it's my team. I would prefer maybe to get a more left-footed left back, but I think Ben Johnson could fill in that void and basically jump into that position. And then if we go to, if we change formation, we go to 3 at the back or whatever, he can play in the back 3. So he's done that. He plays it for the under-21. So it was him, let's say, and Baptiste would play as a 3. So for me, Ben Johnson is kept and Ben Johnson is moved and he'll be our backup left back for this season and then taking over from Crest the following season.
Fair enough. Okay, so the next is a player that, wasn't really seen much in a claret and blue shirt. Member of the Hair Bear bunch, Mr. Alex Kral. How would you have... it's difficult to assess him on 6
difficult to assess him.
Composition.
Yeah. Obviously, he seemed a nice bloke, actually. Jack did one of those snack war things with him, Coufal, and Soucek, and he was really funny on it. And he was like, he had a really shit dessert or something like that. And Soucek had a really nice one. And he went, permanent on loan. That's what, and I really, and you can check it out. It's really funny. And I think he was a nice bloke by all accounts. It's a C, because I never saw him play. It was a bit of a wasted low move. I think it was, maybe it was a move to appease the Czech boys. I don't know. I noticed that since he left, he's also had his self stopped his contract at Lokomotiv Moscow, I think now. So he's actually a free agent now. So, well, if all else fails, he could be back in the claret and blue next season. He knows how to get to the training ground. So, no, I think he's. I just didn't see enough of him. Didn't see anything from him, really. I quite liked him when he played. He played that one game against Man United. Him and Nobes in the centres, and I thought he played all right. But that was it.
Obviously, he wasn't showing Moyes enough in training, I would suggest. But
I don't know. Again, it's one with COVID, wasn't it? He had COVID. He had long COVID by all accounts, and I think it was just the wrong time. It's happened. It happens too often at West Ham. People get injured or get that illness at the wrong time of their career, and it basically cuts their whole progression. Straight dead. And I think that happened with Kral. I think when we needed him, he was actually ill, so he couldn't play, and so then they had to make do and move people around. And by the time he was back, everyone was fit again. So it just didn't work out, unfortunately, for him.
Fair enough. This next player, I should put a little warning to you, Mr. Button, that there is a certain young lady who will be watching this.
Young lady
that will be very interested in how you assess Manuel Lanzini. So tread carefully. Yeah,
well, I mean, 1 to 2 years for me. Manuel he's 29 now.
You might get away with it.
Yeah, well, again, it's not. I think it's coming to us. He's coming to a stage in his career now that he's got to be looking at the next move. I don't think he's going to be at West Ham forever. I don't think he's going to be in England forever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he'd want to. You know, his kid. He's only a baby at the moment, the kid, but in a couple of years' time, he may want to go back to Argentina. You see a lot of Argentinian players do the circuit and then go to Boca Juniors or go to River Plate and finish off their career in their homeland. And I could see that happening. I was surprised actually that I thought he might have gone this summer actually, just because of everything that's being said. You know, you heard rumours that he was meeting with the Boca Juniors president and stuff, but maybe his kid's a little bit too young for a complete change in lifestyle. Not the kid's only a baby, but you know, just he's settled at the moment, and so I think 1 to 2. And but he started to get. I mean, last year he started to get his groove back, didn't he? A little bit. He was, for me, he was always better when he was playing with players at his level or slightly better than his level. You know, obviously he was a revelation when he was playing with Payet, and then he gets injured. Payet leaves. Lanzini comes back. He's our hope. He's the
main man.
And I don't think he copes with that pressure very well. He gets injured, comes back. He's got the likes of Jesse Lingard, Benrahma. He's got some skillful players around him, and played a lot better. And you know, obviously he's played a couple of games in that sort of deep lying role as well in midfield, and that suits him as well, I think, because I think he'll be moving further and further back, you know, because he won't be able to beat players with pace up front. Or as a 10, he picks a pass or he drops a shoulder and just takes 5 yards and gives the ball, you know, to a forward attacker. But I think he's a good player, great player. And actually, funny enough, I remember when he was first starting, we would go and do, or the video guys would do, you know, video packages of trading sessions with him and Payet, and he was scoring more free kicks than Payet. You know, he was more deadly in training with free kicks than Payet, and they were always surprised that Payet took them, but he'd always score them. You know, but he just didn't give a shit when it came to training. Payet probably didn't, whereas Lanzini was trying to really hone his game. But yeah, happy Emirates will be happy. I'll keep him for another couple of years.
Fair enough. So again, the next player on the rank is, and I said rank, if anyone's listening, on medium wave, RANK rank. Okay, David Martin, would you have gave him an extra year, Russ, or do you think?
No, I'd have let him go as a player and I'd have kept him on as a coach. Again, it's that West Hamness. Obviously, we've lost a lot of West Hamness so far with Nobes going. And obviously sort of the legacy of the Martin name. And he's coming to the end of his career now. We'll probably get one more move to a MK Dons or someone like that, maybe as a for a season or so. I would like to see him back at West Ham as a goalkeeper coach, even if it's with the academy, like a bit like Jimmy Walker did this season, just to have that sort of continuity, that West Ham continuity through, because it's important to have West Ham fans in and around the team, because it just gives that authenticity about the team. You know, we moan about West Ham not being West Ham anymore, and you know, the fact that Martin Oble's gone, the fact that David Martin's gone, these are two West Ham fans. Hopefully we might bring one in the next few days, maybe coming in, who's a massive West Ham fan, born in Brentwood. But until then, we've got a little bit of a void. So I would like to have him come back in a coaching capacity eventually, because he's a really nice bloke as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the fact that, as you sort of alluded to, you'd have waved him goodbye, but kept him as a coach. I think the fact that he's moved on, I think there must have been a conversation. Did he want to sort of stay as a coach? And he's probably turned around and said, I think I've got a little bit more gas in the tank as far as my playing career is concerned. So he's probably gone away, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him back at West Ham as a coach in a season or two's time. It wouldn't shock me in the slightest, but we'll see. A player that a lot of people probably want out the door, but is hanging on in there, Arthur Masuaku.
But the trouble is after Masuaku is I know people want him to go, but someone's got to buy him.
Yes,
if someone's buy him, he's stuck. For me, he's a senior. I think we've got. He's taken up a squad position where I think we've got enough cover there. I mean, although saying that, I remember the last but one season. When he was that sort of when Moyes went to the back three and Masuaku was playing left wing back, he was not the first name on the team sheet, but he was one of the first names on the team sheet. And I remember him coming back from Congo early in I think it's November of that season, and there was rumours of him being injured, and it was like a meltdown. That Masuaku's injured? What? What are we going to do? You know, and how times have changed. Times changed indeed. I mean, there's to be honest, there's a quartet. I think I've basically just got rid of. Well, not a quartet, but yeah. He's going to be a senior anyway. But him, the likes. I remember him, Diop, and Benrahma. They're a group of mates. You know, they're hanging around together. You know, the little French contingent. I'm keeping Areola, but the rest of them, you know, they'll all be out the door. So he's got. Zouma's still there, and you know, Zouma's his mate anyway. So, but no, yeah, Masuaku. If someone will take him, if not, yeah, we're stuck with him really.
Yeah. Do you think maybe it's going to have to be like a Jack Wilshere situation where we maybe have to sort of say here's a few bob?
I don't think so yet. I don't think it's that tragic. I think it's if a club come in for him, I think he's gone. I'm not. You know, with next season, with Carabao Cup, with FA Cup, with Conference football, you know, having you know Masuaku there is not the end of the world in terms of, you know, we're very light that left side in terms of left wing back. And, you know, he could easily play left back in the conference games, you know, but, you know, if that means that, you know, or maybe he puts Longelo on and then Masuaku is the backup in case Longelo can't do it. You know what I mean? So it's not, I wouldn't say he has to leave because he's making his detrimental effect on the team or the squad. Not at all. I think he's well liked in the team and in the squad. But you know, if Fulham comes in for him, you know, obviously with old Marco, you know, working with him at Olympiacos, and there's like 5 million quid or whatever, bite their hands off he goes. You know, I'll drive him down to Fulham myself. But if nothing comes in, I wouldn't say it's a disaster if he's still there.
Fair enough. We're going to take a diversion at this point because the next player is actually the next player alphabetically. I actually want to leave till last.
Okay.
So I'm going to go the other way, if you'll pardon the expression, and go for Kurt Zouma.
Yeah, long term, get him in there. Yeah, Zouma is going to be the building block to our next 4 or 5 years of success at West Ham. Him and Aged and Areola are going to be the platform that we build upon, and he's a phenomenal player. And now with Aged playing in that position in the left side, you'll see Kurt Zouma being Kurt Zouma. I think he was very much shackled when he had to play left side with Dawson. And people go, "Oh, it's only you know, he's centre back anyway." But you look at the way Zouma holds his body. His body is always going to the right, and so naturally, he's not natural position is left. That's what Agard would do. His natural position is this way, and so you'll see a lot more. I always thought when he played that left side, he looks really nervous on the ball. He was almost like doing like little Bambi steps with the ball. Where when he played him on the right hand side, he just seems so much more confident. And I think we're building a. That's what I like. We're building a team not just for next season, but for building us for the next 3 or 4 seasons. And that's what's really what I'm loving at the moment. And, looking at people we're being linked with as well. It's not these mercenaries. Talk Jesse Lingard, but it's like not these sort of like last hurrahs. No disrespect to Teddy. When we signed Teddy Sheringham, we didn't think he was going to turn out to be as good as he was, but that sort of or Stuart Pearce, or they played well for us, but it was coming to the end of their career. You only get 1 season out of them. You can't really build on that in terms of success. But now we're buying these players who are, under the age of 20. I mean, Zouma's 26, Agard's 26 as well. Areola's 28, 29. But again, goalkeepers age, it goes a lot longer. They're buying these players and they're just coming into their peak. We never buy players when they're in their prime. We always buy players at the beginning of their career or at the end of their career, and now it seems that we're changing that, and that's what really excites me about the players we're bringing in. Zouma is in the peak, just about to get into the peak of his career, really, based on his age. So is Agard as well. So is Areola. That's really exciting. And that's what we need to do, is improve this back line, get the back line as tight as we can. We can score goals anyway, but it's about not conceding them. And Zouma's going to be a massive part of next season and our next 3 or 4 seasons. I think he's great. I really do. The other stuff aside, on the pitch, phenomenal player, absolute beast, man.
Yeah, absolutely. On the pitch, you can't really sort of say too much bad about him, in fairness. Stuff that's off the pitch, well, that's a different discussion, but we're going to judge him on his playing performances, rightly or wrongly. So, next player, Andrei Yarmolenko. Yep, we know he's no longer a West Ham player as we record this. Would you have taken a slightly different view?
I mean, for me, it was... that sort of last half dozen games when he sort of came back in was the Yarmolenko I think we all thought he was going to get when we signed him for Dortmund for like 18 million quid. For me, I think it was always going to be a seer, because I think what he's doing is he was, until those last few games of that season, his place on the bench was... He was taking up a youth team, taking up Okaflex, basically, in my opinion. And I think, he's a player I would really like us to see a lot more of next season. I think Okaflex is the type of player who would really get people excited off their seats, because he's that good. I'm a massive fan of his, and I was gutted he didn't get hardly any game time. I think he was. Some of Okaflex, for example, because of the whole Europa League setup, if he was eligible for playing in the Europa League, he would have played a lot more, but he couldn't. And so, the games were few and far between. He stuck to who he wanted to, and he never really got a chance. So, he's a seer, Yarmolenko. But, thanks for the memories. Thanks for the memories, man.
Yeah, that goal, the winner against Seville. Yeah, it's one of those moments that will go down in folklore.
Exactly. There's the same as David Martin. There's these certain moments which will be part of the fabric of the modern West Ham. This sort of new West. It is a new West Ham. Let's be honest. It is really. Since we moved, it's a different West Ham than it was when we were at the Bowling. But this new West Ham needs history. This new West Ham needs a show reel. It needs those Eintracht Frankfurt headers with Trevor Brook in, Arsenal header in the FA Cup final, Trevor Brook in, and it needs those. We haven't got a lot of them so far. We've got maybe a Payet wiggle, and when he did that goal against Middlesbrough, I think it was Middlesbrough. We've got Andy Carroll's bicycle kick against Palace. We've got those moments now of Yarmolenko now, in terms of just, they were just so emotional. I don't think anyone will be in that position and who was there and see something like that happen again. To that emotion, it's a different type of emotion, wasn't it? It was, he had everything. He'd been off. He'd obviously his family were Fabianski was helping him getting his family into Poland and all that stuff, all behind the scenes. He wasn't eating. He wasn't eating. He looked a lot. He looked better for it. I'll be honest. He did. In all honesty, looked like really trimmed down. Looked ready to roll, and scored that goal. I mean, the Villa goal firstly, and then the Seville goal. And we've got that memory of Seville now. That memory that everyone talks about. Where we talk about that game against Ipswich in the playoffs, in the Championship playoffs. We haven't had many of those games that we can talk about in a new stadium, and that's one of them. And one of the reasons is because Yarmolenko scored. Same as David Martin at Chelsea, away to Chelsea. That always had that memory as well, and that's what football's about. It's about memories. It's about these moments, on the pitch and off the pitch, and for all his, even Masuaku, for all his faults, he scored that goal, which wasn't really a goal, and it was a cross, and he just hit it, and we'll always have those memories of him. But he's. I wish Yarmolenko very well, because. We never want to be in a position that he's been in the last. Still, I mean, his country's still in. For the last 9 months or whatever it is now ridiculously. So, he's always have a place. Well, he'll always have a place next to me if he wants to see. I'll always let him come sit next to me. That takes a lot.
He's doing well. He's doing well. That's exalted company he'll be in. Can't be bad.
More than welcome.
Would you let him sort of press any of the buttons and
no?
Oh.
There's very
turning a dial.
No, I won't let anyone doing it. No, because if it fucks up, everyone will blame me. So,
okay,
no.
So you can just make your cup of tea then.
I don't even like tea, but he can just sit there if he wants.
Oh.
He can sit there. Feel free to. You can grab a water.
Fair. Okay.
Free.
I'm very interested to see what you're going to say on this player. How would you assess Nikola Vlasic?
Again, it's a bit similar to Alex Kral, really. I don't think we've seen enough of him. And I know people go, "Oh, he's played in the Premier League before," but he didn't really, to be honest. And he was playing
18, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he was developing, and then obviously playing in the Russian league and stuff, and I think when he's had he had a run of games, didn't he, sort of midway through the season, and every time he played, everyone would say, when we do our review shows or we talk the live streams afterwards, everyone would say that's the best game Vlasic just played for us, and he was getting better and better and better. Now, for me, I'd give him 1 or 2 seasons, because I think there is a player in there. And and we've spoken before, Gates. So we were talking about he's not, and with Duke as well, saying he's not £30 million. We're never going to pay £30 million for him. We're not going to win the Champions League with him scoring the winner in the final. Those type of things. And it's
you
not
sure?
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't know. Definitely not for the next year. He'll be gone by then, so they've only got for 1 to 2 years. And for me, it's not his fault. The club. When people talk about valuations of players, the valuation of player is what the buying club will spend on him. It's not the player. Go, actually, no, I'm £30 million, mate. No. That's not how it works, and so it's not his fault. And he's got his price tag, very similar to Haller, really. And he had a price tag on him, and wasn't really. He was our most expensive player ever. He didn't ask to be that.
No,
it's what the club paid for him. And I think with Vlasic, there's a player in there, and I think unlike Benrahma, Vlasic I don't think Vlasic's skill set, I don't think Vlasic's gameplay would be affected by moulding himself into a David Moyes player, whereas Benrahma, you would quell his creativity, because he'd have to adapt his game style to fit with David Moyes'. He'd have to track back more and Vlasic isn't. Vlasic's got an energy on him. He's got a motor on him, and I think he could adapt himself to play for David Moyes more easily than Benrahma. And I would want him to do that, because he's not. I think the world needs to see Benrahma in the right format, in the right formation, because I think people like watching good football, people like watching skillful players. Well, I think Vlasic, he's more mouldable. So I'd give it another 1 to 2 years, see what happens. He's still young. So even if then you want to sell him to Torino or whatever, you won't get as much money as you'll probably get him if you sell him now. But you never know. A run of games or whatever, you might get some more money out of him. But no, I'd keep him for 1 to 2 seasons and then see what happens.
Fair. Okay, so next player is the potato salad prince, the Czech Republic Count, the Earl of Eastern Europe, Mr. Tomas Soucek.
Right.
Did you like my alliterations?
I loved your alliterations. Very good. Very good. It's a Soucek. For me, I would put him 1 to 2 seasons.
Okay.
And here's why. I think. I mean, you look at. I mean, the way I it's very similar to when players play. I know when you're playing FIFA on the telly, on the telly, on the PS, whatever it's 10 or whatever it's called now.
You Spectrum?
The Spectrum, the ZX4, on the Commodore, with the tape, the Amstrad.
Oh.
Yeah, my granddad used to have one. I remember it called Russy Soul. We used to have, what was the game? It was Fire Trap. It was just really annoying. We had to go. Well, I'm gonna have to Google it. It must be able to get it online. Fire Trap. It was like on the tape. You had to, or you had to type the games in yourself. That was a bizarre thing. You got a book and it had like you couldn't get a game. You had to type in the game yourself and you had to code it.
Kids don't know they're born these days.
Don't know you're born these days. Anyway, so with Soucek. In FIFA you have like a base team. You have, and then as you're getting more money, you develop it and buy better players in and improve your squad. For me, I think Soucek's a great player and I think he offers a lot. I think he's been found out a little bit this season. I know people talk about differences in him and Deck, and one's gone forward a bit more. I don't think so. I think basically he was such a revelation in his first season, scoring 10 goals, breaking from the box. You look at his heat maps, they're very similar season on season. They're not massively different than they were the previous season. He's just getting found out, and people are tracking his runs, knowing he'll creep into the box. I think there's better players than Tomas Soucek who could improve our team. And I thought one of them was Calvin Phillips. I thought Calvin Phillips, when he's fit, he's a much better player than Tomas Soucek. And I think him and Deck would have worked, but obviously that hasn't worked. He's going to be sitting on the bench now for Man City for the next 5 years. Good luck to him. Bizarre one that was. I think someone like James Ward-Prowse, although he's quite happy to stay at Southampton. Fair enough. He's got to his level. I think Onana from Lille, he could come and do a great job for us. Be that sort of Cheku Kiarte when he hit turned up and he was an absolute monster. I think he would work very well with Declan Rice in the middle. And the thing that frustrates me with Tomas Soucek is we're trying. It does seem, and particularly with someone like Mark Warburton coming in as well. Mark Warburton's he had an interview the other day where he said basically he wants to improve West Ham defensively, but he wants to bring on this attacking style of football for when we're playing with the ball. Soucek can't do that. He can't do that, and that's why when he first signed for us, I never thought he was, and I thought, he's good. I never thought he was going to go to a Barcelona or to a Madrid because he wasn't skillful enough. He was good enough to do what he did. A bit like, very similar. You can see why Moyes likes him because he is like a bit like Fellaini. He comes into the box. He can get a head on, but he's not going to drop a shoulder, go on a marauding run like Declan Rice does. Unleash a 30-yard crossfield pass, to the fullback. He doesn't do that, and I think there's better players in his position. That's not saying I wouldn't keep him because I think we should keep him. I think he's a good player, but I think if someone did come in with 40 million quid for him, I would take it. I honestly would, just because I think it's not because I don't like the player, but I think you could reinvest that to get someone who would give you I think he's very one-dimensional, and I think you could come in. I mean, someone like Declan Rice is not one-dimensional. He can play defensively, he can block, then he can do marauding runs forward. He's trying to do free kicks. He's trying to do that. His development to his game. I don't think Tomas Soucek can develop into a ball-playing central midfielder, and I think we need that because we need to. West Ham, it's not the West Ham way. We want to play with the ball on the floor and, a bit more swagger about our side. And I think for me, Soucek, he's a great player. He's the way for me, there's two types of West Ham players that work well. There's your Trevor Brooking type players and your Billy Bonds type players. So they fit into one of those diagrams. There's a Venn diagram. There's people very few people who are in both. Soucek is very much a Billy Bonds type player, but I think unfortunately the game's changed now. You don't have those types of players in football now. They're in that sort of creeping towards that sort of Trevor Brooking style player, and I think we could get someone in. If it was Onana, I think Onana could come in and do a great job for us. He's young, he's Belgian, or even Tielemans. You could flip him for Tielemans. I mean, he would be a total different type of player, and I think he would complement Declan Rice very well. There's enough out there, and so that's why he wouldn't be a long-term player for me. I think or even bring someone in and then get someone like Pierre Edouard in, or from the under 21s, 23s. He's brilliant. I love him. He's a fantastic player. There's some really good players coming through from the 23s if we gave him a chance. But for me, Tommy, give it a couple of seasons, mate. And then he'll be almost knocking on 30 then, won't he, I think, by then?
Yeah, there or thereabouts. Okay, the next one we want to talk about is his defensive midfield partner, the captain by and large last season, and going forwards, he will be the captain next season.
Hopefully, yeah.
Well, yeah, I say that crossing fingers and touching wood unless something very strange happens. Declan Rice.
Yeah, long term, and you
don't want to sell him.
No, I don't want to sell him at all. At all. He's arguably one of the best players in the world in his position. Mm-hmm. I don't honestly in terms of impact. Again, if he had if he had a Man City badge on, or he had a Man United badge on, or a Liverpool badge, or any of the top 8, if he did, he would be in those discussions as one of the best players in the world. Honest, because he's that good. I mean, it, Gates. He's that good.
Oh yeah.
And I think now next year, touch wood, everything, not him with being the main man now, not having to, I don't think there was any what's the word, any sort of bit of resentment to having to share the captain's armband with Mark Noble at all, because I think he respects Mark Noble more than anyone in the world. But he's the main man now. He's the main man. I almost wanted them to erect those old castles out, like those turrets, just in a new stadium like we used to have at Upton Park, and hand over the keys to the castle from Mark Noble to Declan Rice, because he has the keys to the castle now. He can be our Billy Bonds. He really can, because if he stay, I've got rose tinted glasses on, but he's not stupid. He knows the admiration people have for Mark Noble, who went from 550 odd appearances. He won fuck all, but West Ham fans, the modern West Ham fans love him to the moon and back because of he stuck around and he's a West Ham fan and all this type of stuff. He could do that, and more so. He's played over 170 games, something like that, for us now.
Yeah.
And he's only 22, 23. He's got, he's not even at his peak. He's not even at his peak yet. And I think it'd be a Travis. Obviously the chances are it's not this season. It'll be next season if he goes. But even then, I think we've got the 2-year option on him. So even if he waited until he run down his contract, we'd still get a fair whack from him in the last year of his contract. If you wanted to sell him in the January before the Christmas, before his contract runs out, so he is the cornerstone of everything that's West Ham at the moment, and he's the poster boy, and he will be I would hope he'll be the next West Ham captain to lift some silverware, because he needs to be more than anything, just to keep him. In all honesty,
Yeah.
I interviewed a while ago. I interviewed Issa Diop, who I think is the last No, there's one captain. I think I can't remember who lifted the Intertoto Cup, but he was the last.
Lomas.
It would have been Steve Lomas. Yeah, he was the last captain to lift FA Cup glory or some sort of silverware when they won the Youth FA Cup in '99.
You're not counting the Betway Cup as a win then?
No, but actually, technically, it wasn't Martin Noble that lifted the cup. It was Baptiste that lifted the cup last year. He passed it to Baptiste, that lifted it up himself. So, which was a bizarre thing. I don't understand why I did that. But anyway, yeah. So I'll keep Declan Rice, but I think everyone would keep Declan Rice. No one would sell him.
Oh, we've had a few.
Really? What to reinvest? Sell him now rather when his stock is high.
I can say it now because it's already gone out. When Charlie Walsh did his one.
Oh, that's Charlie, isn't it?
I know. He said basically, long story short, kick him out the door if you can get 80 million.
I think he'd still. I think honestly, even going to his last year of contract, you'd still get 60, 70 million for him.
I agree.
Because it's this once the contract's gone, it'll be it'd be his market. Whereas if you can get if Chelsea in the last if this happened, Chelsea in the last sort of 6 months buy him, they get a march on Man United and City and Real Madrid. Of course they'd buy him. It'd save a lot of money in terms of the rest of the stuff. But anyway, who's next?
Oh, who's next indeed? Mr. Darren Randolph.
A daddy. Just become a dad, hasn't he?
He has, yes. Congratulations, Mr. Randolph. If you're watching this, doubt you are.
Oh, well, I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's probably doing a feed, so there's nothing else on. So we're watching on catch up as we've all been there. Well done. And congratulations for nabbing Alexandra Berg. Well, fair play to you, son. See ya for me. Yeah, for Darren.
You've congratulated him on the one hand and kicked him out the door on the other.
But you're out. Well done. You're on paternity leave.
Yeah, well done. Oh, by the way, you're sacked.
Alexandra's probably on enough anyway. She's probably still getting the royalties in from Hallelujah.
Yeah, he's not going to be going to the Iron Supporting Food Bank, is he? Let's be honest.
Let's be honest, he isn't. No, he'll be all right for sorted, for baby formula and whatnot. For me, he's a bit of a meh player now. Do you know what I mean? It's like I was really surprised he was retained when the retained list came through, and he was on it. And
because he wanted to go in January, didn't he?
Yeah, he wanted to go. He was going to go to Villa, wasn't he?
Yeah,
I think it was Villa as a reserve team goalkeeper, or they needed Martinez was injured, and it didn't work out. And then obviously they offered him a new deal. That's always what happens if that's the way football happens. If you reject, or you go, or a club come in for you and the club don't sell you, they end up giving you a new contract. And because they have to give you new terms, they give you an extra year on top of your current deal. That's the way it works out, because they can't give you the same contract length as you're currently got now. So that's why it was a strange one. I just think with Randolph, he was like, there was a period where, he was the last period where there was two goalkeepers who either or could be number one with him and Adrian. They were sort of competing for number one, and now in the same situation with Fabianski and Areola. Either could be number one with a good run of games. I think with Randolph, I think him being there means that Nathan Trott, who's just signed a long-term deal, he's probably going to go out on loan. You've got Joseph Anang, who's still playing in the Irish League at the moment for St Joseph's. I think he's playing tonight, actually, in Europa League, the conference.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's in the Conference League. Okay. St Andrews are. So I think the first round is actually proper today. I think the first legs today, the first set of so on the way to who we're going to play eventually. You've got him, you got Hegi, the Hungarian goalkeeper, under 23s. He's very good, and I think he just, I'd want a good goalkeeper. I'd want a first team, a reserve team goalkeeper, and then a youngster. And so now we haven't got one. We've got a reserve team goalkeeper, first team, Darren Randolph, and then a youngster. And that's not going to help our situation. We want to be able to bring these players, these goalkeepers through. And very few teams have young goalkeepers, young British goalkeepers who have come through the ranks from the youth team. A lot of them have brought goalkeepers in, or, someone like Nick Pope, for example, he's obviously gone to Newcastle, and you've got Emerson and stuff like that. And you're never going to get this sort of procession of good English goalkeepers come through if you don't play them. And I think Randolph is a testimony to why we haven't got as many good young English goalkeepers coming through, because we have these little players who hang around a little bit too long for my liking. Not saying he's a great guy; he's a lovely bloke, but I think it's the detriment of of the youth team progressing in terms of the young goalkeepers, particularly someone like Heggie. I mean, Heggie's a great goalkeeper; he'll be a future star. But will it be at West Ham? Who knows?
Well, if he was watching at the start of your analysis on his West Ham career, he's probably turned off now.
He unliked it.
Well, it doesn't matter. We're down to the last two to stuff. It doesn't matter. We're almost done. Okay, so next one could be an interesting one. How would you assess Angelo Ogbonna?
Right. Okay. So Oggy, the way I'd categorise him the same as Craig Dawson. So it's 1 to 2 seasons. So this to me is, so as I said, Dave. It seems that what we're doing is changing our squad and we're trying to bring in younger players while maintaining the best older players. And obviously, Oggy is one of those players. Clearly the guy is a fantastic trainer. When the Aguerd signing was announced, and Colton did a little interview on these lovely garden furniture at Rush Green outside the ground, Ogbonna was there. The team weren't meant to be back. The team haven't been back for another 10 days. Ogbonna was there training and getting fit, and and that takes bollocks. He's been so unlucky with injuries. Every time he just seems to get, he was on the cusp of being in the Italian squad. Then he got injured again, which is a big deal, for a non Serie A player to be picked for the Italian squad if they haven't already established themselves, like Jorginho or someone like that. For me, I just think if I'm getting rid of Diop, I want to keep a left-sided centre back in, and obviously he is a left-sided centre back, and I think him and Dawson will be our conference pairing and Carabao Cup pairing and FA Cup pairing, and they'll be our cup centre backs, same as Fabianski might be our cup goalkeeper. So that'll be our two teams. I think Oggy, and he's got experience. That's the thing I think our team have lacked a lot of, is European experience, playing in European games, playing in different leagues like Italy, that type of thing. We've seen that when we played Sevilla, when we played Lyon, when we played Frankfurt, the dark arts. Playing a European style of football is very different. It's playing to the referee and that type of stuff. And having people like Oggy in there, they know what's going on. They know what to expect, and they can impart the information along a little bit more. I'd keep it for 1 to 2 seasons. I'll keep it for 1 season. I'll give him the extension which he's got now, and at the end of next season, say see you later, Og. All the best, mate. All the best.
Fair. You have almost completed your mission, Mr. Budden, except for one player. So we know that Mark Noble has knocked it on the head as far as being a professional footballer is concerned. We know that. But if you were the manager, would you have shook his hand and said, thanks very much for your service, Mark, off you go? Or would you have maybe been tempted to keep him on a little bit longer? How would you have assessed it?
No, I'd have let him go if he wanted to go, because very rarely do players choose when to retire. It's usually when they get injured. Majority of time is injuries. Mark is very fortunate in the way that he's been able to go out on his own terms.
Yep.
And for someone who, as we said before, about an hour ago, who's he played 350 odd games, and won fuck all and been relegated with us. I think he earned that right to decide when it was his time. And I think for him it was the right time for his kids as well. Obviously, his son's progressing in the academy. He's looking at what he wants to do next, and I think it was the right thing. I think keeping someone who, and again, I think he's, although when he's been called upon, he's always given 100%, and you always expect that remark. I think sometimes you could argue that and it wasn't sentimental because I don't think he's not that type of player, but sometimes you think him. Wouldn't mind seeing a Pierre Aguirre coming on, or someone, different than Mark. We're going to get with Mark, and he was good at doing that, tying it up at the games, when we're winning, or just getting a draw. We need to get a draw for this game, so he'll come on and tie it all up defensively. But I think we've got a bit more in our squad now than that. Now that's a bit. I find that a little bit old hat, bringing on a player now just to tie the game down. We're not like that now. We can still, we're a stronger side now, then we need to do that. And I think Mark knew when his time was up. That's why he signed the new extension. He sort of knew ahead when he was going to retire, and said, "Look, this is it, and this is on." And it was about a year ago, weren't he? Gave us about a year's notice to try and get used to the fact of him not being there.
Do you think he'd have retired 12 months earlier if there'd have been 60,000 that would have been able, that last game against Southampton the season before, if there'd have been 60,000 there as opposed to 10,000, do you think he'd have knocked it on the head there?
Possibly. But then I think there was the whole European stuff. And obviously qualifying for Europe. I know firsthand that, so obviously at West Ham, I've got a floor manager at West Ham, lovely lady. I've been working for over 10 years, and she was absolutely in bits when Mark retired, because obviously for the best part of 10 years, she's been there and has waved Mark through and then told me to play bubbles. So they sort of have this sort of like this weird they know each other, this relationship. And obviously that first European game at London Stadium this season,
Rapid, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Rapid Vienna. Her and him had this little moment, and he was like, "Oh fucking yes, this is it. This is why I probably stayed another season to do this." And I honestly believe if we'd made Champions League this year or for next season, I think he would have stayed. To be able to do that, walk out as captain of the champion. There was no coincidence that Mark Noble was picked for that Rapid Vienna game. That was no coincidence. That was this is Mark Noble, West Ham captain. Man and boy walking out the first Europa League game at the London Stadium. That was his moment. And I think if we'd got Champions League, I think he would have found it very difficult to not retire. Do you know what I mean? Because I think that draw to walk out to have that music playing and the champions, that type of thing. I mean, that's my thing. I'd love to have been able to do that at London Stadium and play that song. That'd be the pinnacle of my career probably at West Ham, playing that track. And I think it would have been the same for him being at West Ham playing in the Champions League. I think he was the right thing to do. I think he needs to take time away now, take time with his family, reassess and think out what's the next thing he wants to do. Yeah, he doesn't have to do anything. He's a multi-millionaire. He can sit there. He's got a very successful property company, and he would, but I know he wouldn't want to be, no disrespect to any of the ambassadors because I love them all, but he wouldn't want to be a corporate ambassador sitting there and talking, and meeting people. And, if he comes back, it wants to be in there, involved, not for the money, because he doesn't need the money, but for the fact that it's West Ham and it's his club. And it's similar to the way I see that Tony TC wants to be involved at within the business side of West Ham. There's a reason why that he tends to get involved with all the various bidders that come in. because he loves the club and he wants to get involved with the club. And so is Mark. Mark loves the club. He loves West Ham. They're his team. It's his family team, and he wants to be involved. At not necessarily at the corporate stage, walking around when they're having drinks and sort of making sure they're all telling stories. But he wants to be at the business, the top end. He wants to be. I can see Mark coming back eventually as a director of football at West Ham, and being that integral, because that's I think that's how he knows what it takes to be a West Ham player. So when they're looking at recruitment, when they're looking at things like that he knows what he's looking for. He knows who's going to make it, who's not going to make it, and I can't wait to read his book, which is out in November, I believe.
Oh, that'll be a nice little Christmas present, I think.
It would be indeed.
Can't be bad. Right, I'm going to go full screen with this, sir. So, top of the pile in the long-term players category: Areola, Ashby, Bowen, Fornals, Johnson, Zouma, and Rice. 1 or 2 seasons: Antonio, Coufal, Cresswell, Dawson, Fabianski, Fredericks, Lanzini, Vlasic, Soucek, and Ogbonna. There is nobody in the not sure category. No. Mr. Budden is steadfast in his opinions. And in the senior category, we've got Benrahma, Diop, Kral, Martin, Masuaku, Yarmolenko, Randolph, and, with regret, Mr. Mark Noble. And that is your time as West Ham manager over, I'm afraid. You're done.
That's it. It's
short but sweet.
Yeah. Very, very similar to the Kevin Keane when he was took over as caretaker manager for a game.
But you didn't even last 90 minutes, Russ.
No, well, it was a dubious, some dubious decisions. The fans turned against me quite rapidly.
Had to leave before the final whistle. As your luck.
Yeah, the sort of 1-1-8 formation didn't quite go to plan against Arsenal, and unfortunately, but still, fun while it lasted.
Fair. Well, Russ, I'd like to thank you very much indeed for giving up your precious time on an evening. Taking you away from your family, but it's all for a good cause.
The mother-in-law's moved in for like a couple of weeks while our bathroom's been done, so I'm not worried.
Okay,
I might have a couple of hours if you're right.
Yeah, I was going to say no. We'll I'll get in trouble. Your missus will start sending me messages, and what are you doing? It's like,
I don't get it now. I just get like I just know there's no one in my house. All the lights are off. They just don't bother now. Yeah, so they've all got up to bed. I used to get bye. No, they just
bugger off and just leave you to it.
I'm talking about West Ham, so they know that.
It must be a common thing amongst women, because it's a similar thing that happens here. But anyway, that's another conversation. Guys, please don't forget to like, comment on and share the stream, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to hit the bell icon to be notified of any new content as and when we upload it to the channel. And as always, guys, we thank you very much indeed for your support in this matter. Mr. Budden, last question: what are we?
We are massive, Gatesy.
We are massive. Come on, you Irons.
Irons.